All right, so
Hmm.
oops, not hearing you, Pat. Let's hear that.
Can y'all hear me through there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can't hear.
Well, I can't hear you, Pat. Can you hear Pat, Jill? Okay, Pat, I don't think I can't hear you. And Jill, can you hear me? Oh, thank you, Clayton. So Clayton can hear me. I can't hear Pat. Um, I guess, Pat, if you want, you can call me and I'll put you on speaker. That way I can hear you through the phone. I don't know why I can't hear you. Yeah, Pat. So let's just do a conference call again. That way we'll be able to hear each other. If everybody online can hear us, that's great. Yeah, Pat. Now they can't hear you. Are you muted or anything? No, she's not muted. Okay. Well, um, I guess at this point, like I say, Pat, if you can hear me, give me a call, and we'll hear each other on the phone. Okay. Let me go ahead and start. Um,
Hmm.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Sorry, we've just had technical difficulties up the wazoo on tonight. I don't know. It's one of those nights. I guess the gun controllers must have gotten a hold of something and goofing us up. But anyhow, well, I wanted to start with obviously the 5,000 pound elephant in the room, and that's the attempted assassination of President Trump. Um, I know we were all in shock over that, and I'm grateful that he survived. And let me tell you something: you don't come closer to death than what he did. I don't think it's possible to get any closer to the very edge of the abyss He was standing right on the edge, and he survived that. And that in itself was amazing. But I know they're going to do reports and they're going to do this, that, and the other, trying to figure out what happened. But let me tell you right now, from my point of view, um, the person to be held accountable of this is the head of the Secret Service. They should have had that building covered. No excuses. And the person that was in charge of that part, these remote buildings, making sure that each one was covered, they should be fired. Both of them should go. This is inexcusable. There's no doubt that this goes all the way to the top as far as blame goes. If you're at the top, you take the blame when the people below you fail. You and they both should be out the door. This almost cost Trump his life, but the fact that nobody was watching that building is absolutely unacceptable. That was a major mistake, and you can't afford those if you're in the Secret Service. The people on the ground did a great job. I will say this: the fact that they had these shorter women trying to protect Trump by getting around him made no sense because they couldn't cover but half his body. So they need to rethink that and make it people at least as tall as Trump is to protect him. That was a problem, but they did. They were brave. They all put their lives on the line. They surrounded him, so that's great. So I was getting an echo, so I'm going to turn off my volume here. So anyhow, that's we're grateful that he's in. And I'll say that again. He stood up, pumped his fist to let everybody know, "Hey, I'm okay. I'm hurt a little bit. I'm sure that hurt pretty intensely, but he stood up. He showed his mettle. That they're inevitably have the, oh my God, we got to do something about guns again. I'm sure that's going to be coming up. But our rights are not dependent on what some maniac does. Yesterday, 100 million gun owners did not shoot anybody. And we're not going to tolerate them trying to come after AR-15s again or anything else. But I guarantee that this will be an excuse that will be used. I see Clayton said there was an echo you were hearing too. Somehow that may have been coming through my computer. I just I shut off my speaker, so I can't. Or am I here? Yeah, I can't hear anything now. Except I know you guys can hear me. So
Can you hear me now?
anyhow, so thank God he's okay. The guns are going to come under attack again, guaranteed. We need to watch and find out more about the person that did this. Was he a lone wolf? Don't know, but couldn't. Maybe he wasn't. So hopefully we'll find the truth out. But it's interesting. The Secret Service has gone really quiet on this. They're not coming out and really talking about much. So that's not real comforting. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, Jill, I think they can hear you. Do you want to talk about the safety
Yeah.
kits and so forth?
Can y'all hear me? Here, make sure that everybody can hear me. If not, just talk with my hands. It's been a while.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about Faster Saves Lives program. I don't know if y'all have ever heard about it. I had a nice little speech go through set up, but now that we've had some technical issues, I'm just gonna wing it. Um, but if you have ever heard of the FASTERS program, you know what it is. But if you haven't, excuse me, it is an organization or at least a program that is set up to be implemented into schools to arm teachers, administrators, and certain staff members, or any staff member that's comfortable to learn how to carry on campuses and in schoolyards. Um, the best way to I'm just going to read off go from the acronym. FASTER is actually an acronym. It's FASTER, and it stands for Faculty Administrator Safety Training and Emergency Response. It was created by John Benner of Tactical Defense Institute in Ohio. This guy has an amazing background in law enforcement. He was a 45-year police veteran, lieutenant, Vietnam veteran. He is worked on several task force throughout his career: SWAT, drug abuse reduction task force, you name it. He created this Faster Saves Lives program in conjunction with the Buckeye Firearms Association in Ohio. So if y'all want to check that out, it is fastersaveslives.org. They have a ton of information. They go through. It's just so amazing how they have everything set up on their website. It is, I mean, everything. It gives you a breakdown. If you go under the about, it talks about what kind of training people can sign up for. Um, it the way they do not call schools gun-free zones. They call them victim zones. I love that. Um, and that's pretty much what they are. But their whole purpose is to make schools not necessarily hardened, but make them more safe by utilizing uh, the, the the talents and expectations of schools and administrative staff, and even the students. They go through stress inoculated training and response. That's force on force. They teach about medical and trauma, basic first aid. They go into even intermediate first aid, which goes into like EMT and EMS work. They also do they do the concealed carry classes. They also do firearms training, and their purpose with that is to not just teach the class one time to get these teachers on board, but to make it a consistent thing where they train constantly. I love it. I think it's awesome. They set up um, opportunities for people outside of their state of Ohio to come in and train with them, and they teach us or teach those people how to design our own programs based on the states that we are in. If you go under their resources tab, if y'all want to check it out, they have a ton of information. This is be prepared for the next school shooting. This is how you learn to uh, just speak to your school board and administrators and your board of education and the state. It talks about the laws and how the program can be set up to not necessarily cater to the laws, but kind of work in tandem. And then also it goes through, if it was something that we wanted to do, it also goes through how you can actually set up the entire program to offer to legislators, so they can read over it. And this right here, they have a whole copy under the school authorization checklist. They have a whole copy as to how you can set it up, design the program for the schools, as well as design the information to present to your legislators so they can take it into consideration. So they have really gone out of their way to do this. I think it would be a fantastic program to get off the ground here in Virginia. I do not believe in reinventing a wheel, so if it's working already. So this is actually something that, as a firearms instructor myself, not just a Second Amendment advocate, but somebody who thinks about this as far as sending my child to school every day, this is something that we could really push for as the VCDL to get in front of the Attorney General and hopefully get into legislation, because it would save so many lives. I mean, there's just so much information on their website, and they really have it organized to the point where the questions are answered beforehand. They also have medical kits that you can go through and look at, but I wanted to talk about something that I have been working for. But they have actually a medical kit. It's their classroom trauma kit with case. I have actually been working on a demo for the VCDL with our own trauma. This is a demo. It's orange. As you can see, it's very bright orange too. But I set it up to be a range kit. I've been working with EMS and EMTs, a surgeon, a vascular surgeon from out of state, who is now starting to slowly become a 2A advocate. Um, we've just been working together with so many things, just just trying to build something that we can all use as far as the VCDL, as members of the VCDL. It's something to offer to members and to offer to non-members. Hopefully, um, it'll kind of be like a selling point, so to speak. But it has everything from quick clots, gauzes, your chest compressions, two types of tourniquets. One is a tourniquet that can not only be used as a tourniquet, but it can also be used as a sling, and it's really neat. And then, of course, the standard medical scissors and the twisty, the T, I call it the T twist tourniquet. It comes with earplugs as well as glasses too, safety glasses for when you're on the range. Um, I've been calling it the Ed bag in memory of Ed Levine, and just because this is something that he had talked about at one point as well. So, or the emergency defender bag. Y'all don't like the ED. I was telling somebody about the ED aspect of it the other day, and they're like, that really, you want to come up with something else, that's fine. But it's got opportunity to take off patches and put our patches on there if we need it. I am going through and working with the company Active Carry, activecarrytech.com. They do fantastic work. They're awesome. They work with veteran associations and stuff like that. So that's something that we're working on, as well as, and that's just not the only kit. If we got this program, the Faster Saves Lives program, set up, or our own, if this one doesn't work and we did something through the VCDL and kind of branded it for ourselves, I am working on kids kits, which are kid safety kits that are based on their ages, like grade level ages, first through third grade. They learn how to put on band-aids. And stuff like that. When they get to fourth through sixth grade, they learn the more technical stuff, the more heavy stuff, like recognizing certain emergency situations as well. So it's been a practice. It's been a lot on my plate, but it's been really fun working on this stuff too. So I hope, as the rest of you members, will appreciate that and maybe even think about it. I know it's a lot of information that I just tried to short breath out, but um, I just think it would be a great idea if we started hitting the more so the safety aspect for these little ones, our youth, especially after what happened yesterday. So
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when I was in school, in middle school, actually, we had CPR classes and basic first aid classes and things like that in public schools. And I don't know if they still teach it today, but I don't recall my kids taking any kind of public school first aid classes. So it's to me, it's something that should be taught at various levels
mhm.
throughout the school systems.
I think so. I think that it's something that, just coming from a background where if I didn't have, if it weren't somebody in law enforcement, it was somebody in the medical field. And I'm married to an EMT and a safety guy, and it just kind of it hits me in the feels when I think about it as far as children. We live in a new era. We live in a new day and time, and I believe that bringing attention to certain things, like little ones. My son is 7, learning how to put on a band-aid, recognizing when somebody is in some sort of emergency trauma of some sort, and knowing when to call 911. Those simple practices go a long way at young ages, and you can build upon them. And that's pretty much what this is. As far as this kit right here, this would be like the final product. Um, so you go up in your age ranges, and you're going to build upon the kit itself, starting from first to third grade, and then you're going to get to this later in life, and it'll be your own range kit. And the company Active Carry also is offering that if we do this, if we partner with them to do this, they're going to give members, VCDL members, a discount for any type of refills. God forbid we ever need to use anything in here, but they're going to hook us up with some discounts to get the refills too. So we've good company. Y'all go check them out. It's activecarrytech.com. And again, fastersaveslives.org. And that's faster, like run faster.
Yeah,
So
that's
Rod is
something we're going to
asking. Go
go
ahead,
ahead, Tim.
Philip.
I was going to say, I assume that'll be something we'll have offered by the store as well, or have we decided on that? If that's going to be offered, who's actually going to carry that?
So once we get the kits put together and finalize everything, they will be offered through the VCDL
Yeah,
store,
that's what I
and
thought. Yeah.
that'll come out in a VA alert
Hmm.
when they're available. Rod is asking, will the kit contain lidocaine for injection and Narcan nasal spray for overdoses?
No, I did not set it up for those things, but we can. This isn't a final product. This was our final. It's not finalized. That's why we wanted to kind of speak about it stages to see what anybody else had to, what any type of suggestions, because certain things in here I can take out and put it, and rearrange if we wanted to. They do have an option to build your own kit
Mm-hmm.
through the website of Active Carry, but of course, this being the VCDL specific kit,
Yeah.
we can reset it up, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not
I,
it's not finalized.
I'm
Yeah,
sort
and
of thinking the
people.
light, the Narcan stuff. I think would not be something I would want in a kit that I have. I don't take drugs, and I don't know anybody that does. It depends on what you're going to use it for. If you plan to carry it, and you're an EMT or whatever, or you know this stuff, then yeah, you may want that, and maybe build a custom kit. I think for the average gun owner, basically Narcan wouldn't be anything of real interest. What would be of interest is stopping bleeding, things of that nature.
Exactly. Um,
Yeah,
Right, and people can customize their kits by adding things that are pertinent to their circumstances.
yeah,
exactly. And being that this would be a kit that through a partnership with Active Tech and Aftercarry, we would, of course, have that discount code that if they had that product Narcan. I don't know. I haven't been through all of those yet. They have a ton of stuff. But this was just this simple bill. This was something that the EMTs and EMS guys and my almost pro 2A vascular surgeon pal is suggested. We were just sitting
yeah.
down talking about.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like a seatbelt. It's nice to have it. You hope you never have to use it, but if somebody hurts themselves at the range, they somehow are not following the rules and they shoot themselves through the hand or something. You've got
Exactly.
something in a pinch. And of course, the part that takes a little time is learning everything that's in there and how to use it. But that's kind of what you have to do because when it happens, you don't want to be reading instructions and go, "Oh, I got." You kind of want to know how all that works so that you can just grab it and use it. Um, so anyhow, I think that's something that everybody should have in the range bag, or maybe one in your car uh, where you can quickly access it. So I think that's a great idea.
Well,
Um,
and there's other applications too. I mean, I keep a first aid kit on my boat
here,
because you're out in the middle of the water and something happens, fish hook in the finger or something like that. You need something to be able to handle situations. Just like I keep
exactly.
fire extinguishers in my kitchen, my bedroom, and other places around the house. Not that I'm planning on having a fire, but
Yeah,
if something does happen, I want to have options other
right.
than just, praying for somebody to come save me.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't. Yeah, it's good to have something. Some people have little kits that they put in their pocket, but
Hmm.
I'm loaded down. I mean, I don't have pockets to spare to put kits, but I'd like to have one within reach in my
Yeah.
car, in my shooting bag. Those
Yeah.
would be so. I'd probably get two of them and put them. I currently actually have a kit in my shooting bag, but this looks like this would be superior to what I have, so I'd probably move what I've got into the car.
Right. You think you
So,
got it bad with your pockets. Our pockets are like this
oh, I
big.
know, I
So,
know. I can't even fathom being a woman and going through having either no pockets or Mickey Mouse little things you're lucky to get a lozenge
yeah.
into.
And they sew them shut for us, so it looks better. So, Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we men don't
But
want your shapes all broken up with all kinds of things in your pockets.
right. But back to the seriousness of it. When you do go to the range, things can happen. Finger caught in a slide, or somebody shuts their hand in a car door. Even things happen at various times, and having a first aid kit and being prepared.
Yeah.
And educating yourself on knowing how to use it. Just like when you buy a gun, sure, it comes with a little book and stuff, but it's up to you as a responsible person to learn how to use the objects that you buy. So,
Yeah.
um,
That's what you need to do. And you don't know. You could trip. Somebody could trip and hurt
uh-huh,
themselves and need help.
right?
Sometimes some people are on blood thinners, and I've seen that happen where they got their
Hmm.
finger cut by a staple in a target.
Right?
And gosh, it took me a while to get that person's thumb to stop bleeding. I mean, it just didn't want to stop. So yeah,
Yeah.
and had a first aid kit in the car that I grabbed at the time, put some pressure on there and stuff. But you just don't know. It's again,
Yeah.
you hope you don't have to use it, but boy, if you need it, you'll really need it. And it
Yeah.
could be for you, it could be for somebody else. You might have to treat yourself. So it's good to know that stuff, how to apply a tourniquet to yourself. If like you're like today, I was at the range and I had the range to myself. I couldn't believe it. I had the whole thing, short range berm, 25 yard, 50 yard, 100. I had the whole thing to myself today. Nobody wanted to go out in the heat, so I had a blast. But I also was well aware that if something went wrong, the only
Uh-huh.
person there would be me.
Right.
My cell signal isn't even that good out there. I couldn't count on getting 911 if I wanted to. I
And
might, but I
a,
couldn't
a,
count on it.
a lot of ranges are like that. That they're out in rural areas a lot of times, and cell service sucks.
Yeah,
So
and nobody's around. So,
mhm,
I had to go to the top of a berm to fetch something that when I shot at the bottom of the berm, a little plastic bottle had knocked it to the top. So I went to fetch it before I left, but I realized, boy, be careful. Don't fall down from
mhm.
up here because, again, nobody's around. So, but anyhow, you never know. And so I appreciate Jill's work on putting that together. We'll have more on that later.
And
The,
we hear all the time when we go and lobby. Philip and I sit in these meetings, and we hear the other side accuse us of not caring and not taking any steps to ensure the safety of our children. And these are steps that we are taking and have thought about that will actually do something besides make somebody feel good and make our innocent children less safe instead of more safe. That the faster saves lives. Actually, they did intensive studies and worked with government studies and things to find out what actually does work, what actually does make a target less attractive to a potential mass murderer. And should that potential mass murderer decide to um, go to a school or an area, what steps can you take to shorten the length of the attack and make the victims less vulnerable and stop the attack? Or these are the things that we want to present to the General Assembly in the next session and say, here's real solutions that we can all take and we can all agree on that will actually accomplish something and not punish good people that haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, of course, I will point out, as I frequently do on this subject, that sometimes merely having, I point to Utah. Anybody with a permit can carry there. No special training, just with the training you get to get a permit. And they do require training covering certain things for everybody that gets a permit. But what happened there is you've got deterrence. So they've not had to use it in Utah. They've not had a school shooter where a teacher even had to stop them. Nobody's tried it because so many people are armed in a school, you don't know where to begin. So you have to crank that in. And of course, we're having to deal with the real world where the General Assembly just, they're hair on fire. We got to have all this special training. Well, if that's what it takes to get the kids protected, then faster is the way to go. Ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
though, I can tell you what really helps is a deterrence. If you've got enough armed people, they're not going to have to do anything because nobody's going to be brave enough to try to do something.
And
So
as a matter of fact, the people don't even have to be armed. Just the knowledge
yes,
that they could be armed is a major deterrent.
yeah, absolutely, Pat,
And
absolutely.
the whole program, the FASTER program, it goes through that. It'll actually, on their homepage or their about page, it actually breaks down a little bit more than what I did as far as what they offer in each stage of the classrooms that they have. Another thing that if you look through their resources, especially for the be prepared for the next school shooting, this is the packet that they actually present to the school boards and the students, not students, but the parents. I think that they do get parents involved, but as well as the teachers and faculties and administrators of schools. There's a part on it, page 11, if y'all happen to be looking, but there's one, it's a topic. It says why an armed presence in schools, and they actually use a Virginia situation in their presentation. And this was the Appalachian School of Law in Grundy, Virginia in 2002. A 43-year-old killed 3 and injured 3 more before being confronted by 2 students who had to run to their cars to retrieve personally owned firearms to deter him.
Yep.
So I thought that was neat.
Imagine how many lives could have been saved, though, had they not had to run to their
Right.
cars first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Seconds count.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
You
Big
look at
time.
the video from yesterday with Trump, and that whole thing played out in a matter of seconds. It was over.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was over in 10 seconds.
And
Done.
the reason it was over in 10 seconds was because somebody with a gun was sitting up on a roof waiting for something like that to happen and ready to respond. He didn't have to go to his car and get his gun.
Right. Yeah. That's yeah. But again, how all that went down is just something else.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of unanswered questions about that, and
there are. We'll be watching too, because like everybody, I think all of our members are interested in how did this happen? How did somebody get that close? And then crawl up on a roof with a rifle, walk through a parking lot or whatever to get to the roof to walk up with the how? It's not like
apparently with a ladder.
Yeah, apparently,
It goes back into. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, granted, none of us here, other than Philip Van Cleave, is the president. But as far as us being common folk who go on about our business every day, in ordinary ways, we are our own first responders. Just like what Phil was talking about, being on the range by himself. If something happened, he would have to still have the know-how and first aid methods. And the same thing goes in line with carry, when you carry your firearm. So I was thinking about that yesterday. I mean, I was, as soon as it happened, and I'm not the biggest Trump fan ever. I don't hate him, don't love him. I'm one of those. But I watched that and I thought to myself, holy smokes. I mean, immediately upset, in shock. Thinking about his kid and his wife were there in the crowd. They saw it. His youngest son, Barron, and of course, immediately I started thinking about my kid. Just thinking about those things, and I'm like, how do we prepare for that?
Yeah.
On that, I mean, they've prepared on that level, but we can't carry Secret Service in our pockets.
No, so we're on our own. And we have to provide our own security. We've got to be aware. It's hard, but ideally you need to be aware of all that. Yeah, and I think we all felt violated by that. Whether you love Trump, hate him, or whatever, absolutely. None of us want any of these people to be assassinated. None of us want any of that. And when you see that happen, regardless of who it is, you feel. I felt like violated myself, as if they they had done something to me personally. So. Anyhow, we will be watching this, and we'll be fighting, to protect our rights in light of them inevitably wanting to say, "Oh, we've got to do something."
And I'm
Well,
sure more details will come out. I
yeah,
mean,
oh
right
yeah, they
now
will.
we're still getting so many conflicting reports that to play armchair quarterback, so to speak, is just futile.
But there's no
But
doubt that there was a major
right,
failure by the Secret Service, that somebody got on
absolutely,
that roof. There's no doubt. They should have had their own person on those roofs around that area.
absolutely.
They
Yeah.
didn't. I can't believe they didn't do that. Or have
Yeah,
somebody at every corner of those buildings watching to make sure nobody could get up there. But
yeah,
anyhow, that's a
Or
failure. Those are professional. They
yeah,
somebody that laid that out,
somebody
that
dropped the ball.
goofed up. The people on the ground doing the jobs, are not blaming them. Whoever is at the higher level that decided where they need
Mhm.
people, that's where the mistake came in.
right.
Um,
And it's what's sad is that you're watching. If you anybody gets on socials and the X or Twitter, whatever we call it, and you watch the anti crowd, the excrement of the
Yeah,
anti crowd. I picked up some new words to add to my database up in here, and Dana Lash said it best when she was calling one of them out today, because there's a mockery of it because due to the social services,
right.
due to the Secret Service not hitting that part. In her words I love it. She called one of these little cats that likes to run off about gun control and everything, she called him an absolute Accutane rage turd. And I thought that was probably the best description for them, because they're nothing but just steam. Stinky steam. And that's all they talk about. Because there were people that were condemning Trump in that moment. He was only 11 minutes in. I think it was like 11 to 15 minutes into his speech, and it happened. And people were immediately on the anti-Constitution side. We're talking about how he was inciting violence even then and everything. And I was just, and as somebody that is very very critical of him, or anybody in a leadership position, I'll put it that way, not just Trump, but very critical. And I was I was watching it live. I just happened to catch the moments before. All of a sudden, as somebody that worked with firearms, I understood that it was a firearm that was going. I was like, oh my gosh, this dude's getting shot at right now. And it was just complete shock. But then you have
Yeah,
these anti-gun folks that are just like, oh, well, they missed, and I'm sitting there, are you serious? It's
yeah. I
just
mean, I've seen some
right
pretty
crazy.
hateful excrement coming through on X,
Excrement.
and people that are supposedly professional, like college professors and stuff, saying
Mm-hmm.
things like you should aim better, and
yeah, that's
that's
yeah.
just disgusting.
They're
Other
out there.
college.
We just have to rise above all of that.
Yeah,
Not wish anybody to
absolutely.
have any harm.
I mean,
What goes around comes around. You start wishing that, and then you can start watching it
Mm-hmm.
happen in your life. So it's better not to do that.
Exactly.
it's sad that people hate to that degree. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Nothing. No. That we live in a country. We should have discourse. We can settle things at election at the by electing the right people and voting.
Hmm. Yeah,
We can disagree on topics. I do that frequently with one thing or another. Disagree to disagree, and
yeah,
move on. I don't hate anybody for their opinions, but we got to
right.
watch it. And your security is still there, even though we could take the high road. That doesn't mean other people are going to take the high road. So you got to be careful.
And
I have some other things too. I want to move on to.
sure, but on
We're-
a side note, I have to wonder if Elon Musk heard me calling his the comments on excrement, because he
yeah.
he put a thing out yesterday. Did you see? Should we go back to Twitter or leave it at X? So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple of real quick good news things that I want to share with people before you get into your list, Philip. We received a message from member Mark H saying that him and his wife moved to Goochland County, and it was time to renew his CHP, so he filed his renewal in Goochland, and let's see, he said he had filed it on July 5th and he received his new card on July 11th. It was a plastic card and it was only $20. So he said, shout out to the clerk of the court of Clerk Amanda Adams of Goochland, and thank you for prompt service on that. And then on VA Guns on Reddit, somebody, Infamous Monk, posted that the 2024 gun safe tax credit forms are now available online. So you don't have to claim the tax credit, but if you want to claim a tax credit for a gun safe or gun safety device, you can claim it on your state income tax return.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
It's always good to have things like that where it's an option and you're encouraged to do things. That's fine. It's a good way to do it.
Yep.
Well, some of the things I've got to talk about, there is a GOA is having a summit called Goals. This will be in Tennessee in August, and you might want to check at gunowners.org for more information about it. But I'll be a speaker there. We're going to have a table there. It's in Knoxville, and the dates are from the 16th to the 18th. The main events are 17th and 18th of August. So this will be coming up in about a month. So I wanted to point that out. We will have a table, and Pat and I and Jill will be attending, and I'll be speaking on Sunday at 12:05 at the event. So I'm looking forward to that. That's GOA's Goals Summit. We also had some other good news that was in the very last alert on DWR land, the Department of Wildlife Resources, which is national forests. National forests are run by DWR in Virginia, even though it's a national forest. So open carry is now legal there, and it's legal on all the Department of Wildlife Resources land where it didn't used to be. I had contacted them last year, worked with them. Very nice people I dealt with, and they couldn't do anything legally until July 1 because they're required for any change in regulations. They have to publish it on July 1. They can't do anything in the meantime, and that avoids people getting caught up not being aware of a regulation change, which is fair enough. So anyhow, that's good news that's done. Chesapeake has dropped their fees is another good thing, and this is where a member Vic went out and she got them to lower their fees. She worked hard on Chesapeake, and the city council decided that when their next budget came out, that they would lower the fees, cut them in half from $50 down to 25. So that's good. We have for those of you that might be in the Central Virginia area, an alert will be coming out. We'll be looking for people to help volunteer at the Virginia Outdoor Sportsman Show in Meadow Event Park. That's just north of Richmond. That's going to be coming up on August 2nd to 4th. We'll have an alert on that. It's in the Doswell area, if you're familiar with that, like off of 95 heading just north of Richmond. So that'll be coming up. I have some things I'll be putting in the next alert, talking about shots fired in the air. Some situations where people have actually dealt with that. In one case, somebody had decided they were going to, with a muzzle loader, you can't just unload it like you can a normal gun, a modern cartridge-based gun where you can just take out the cartridge. With a muzzle loader, one way and most common way to unload it is to fire it. You're kind of stuck doing that. And this person decided to fire it into the air in a hunting area, and it came down about just a few feet away from somebody. The round, they could hear that round dropping out of the sky about 10 seconds after that shot was fired and landed near them. And consequently, they had a little chat with the person that unloaded their muzzleloader into the air. Another person had talked about their experiences in the Middle East, where shooting guns into the air is just part of the culture there. Whenever time they're celebrating, he said, "Yeah, but boy, those rounds do come down." He described some of the ways that they've come down where in the area where he was. You could find rounds that fell out of the sky laying all around areas. So, and people do get killed with that. So, thought those were interesting. Those will be in the actual alert coming out. I did want to comment on the Republican platform again, and an issue that we don't deal with at all, but for another example of where the platform change was in the pro-life area. We don't take a position on that, but the something similar there where a lot of the pro-life wording was taken out. Well, we're worried about the Second Amendment, and it is mentioned in the platform. But again, as I said about the Republican platform, I care about what they do, not what they say. It's what they do that where the rubber meets the road. So I think I understand where the platform was sort of toned down based upon the elections coming up. I don't like it, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's basically, again, we'll be watching what they do. When they had all this stuff in the platform last time around, it didn't keep us from getting the Safer Communities Act, for example. There were Republicans who voted for that, and we're still dealing with all the fallout from that mess. And we got the bump stock issue, and we had red flag issue that kind of came up at the federal level. So we need to keep on top of whoever our elected officials are, regardless of platform, to make sure they do the right thing. But if the Republicans were smart, they would be shoring up their base on this, though. They would still be talking about the importance, and we'll see what they say during their conventions coming up here this week. But should be shoring that base up. Don't ever take any part of your base for granted. That's a bad idea. It really is, especially if you want to motivate people to come out. So I just wanted to talk about that again. Some people kind of were seeing that more as a very serious issue. So we'll see in
Yep.
the end how this shapes up.
Also, Fishersville meeting coming up this
That's
month.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
On the 24th, we will be having a VCDL live meeting in Fishersville. First time we've ever done that. It's a nice room where we'll have the meeting, and I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, so if you live out in that area, it's a great opportunity to actually attend a VCDL meeting that's local to you. And if you don't, you want to drive a little ways, enjoy your summer drive, come on out. The more people there, the merrier. We're happy with that, to have a lot of people there. We also there'll be a little article about gun owners not registered to vote. That should not happen, but they're out there. And if you know gun owners that are not registered to vote, get them to register to vote. For crying out loud, you can't complain about how things are going with laws if you're not voting. To me, that makes no sense. But if you want to complain, you need to have some skin in the game and be a voter. So there'll be a little thing about that. Let's see. There was also an article about GOA has basically been working with Congress to defund the ATF's ability to have a gun registry. Now, by law, they can't have one, and they're saying, "Oh, no, we can't search the data we've got online. No, we just store it in a database, and we don't search it. We look through it one by one." And I'm sorry, but especially with artificial intelligence and everything else going on, telling me that you can't search that and that you haven't searched that is stretching my belief to the limits. I just can't go with that. And Congress can't either. So they're looking at defunding that, taking away any funding for that whole thing, because they are not supposed to be able, under any condition, to search that database. Because if you can, then you've got a gun registry. That is prohibited by the Firearm Owner Protection Act. And
yes, but they actually, with the recent changes in requirements for FFLs, it used to be that the FFL was the one that kept the records, and after 20 years, those records could be destroyed. Well, about a year ago, the rules changed, and now FFLs must keep those records forever, and they're not allowed to destroy them at all. And when the FFL goes out of business, because eventually we all do, then those records are turned over to the ATF. So they have created a de facto registry.
So was this part of the Safer Communities Act that they're claiming they got the authority for that change? Or are they pulling out of
I believe
air?
it was part of the Safer Communities Act, but I'm not positive on that. And the concept was that even after 20 years, they needed that information to be able to do traces and so on and so forth. Well, as we know, traces almost never solve crimes. And so this is just an excuse to create a registry of the guns.
They desperately want this registry. They definitely want to be in a position to disarm us. It's they're coming from all directions, but it's all you look at the mosaic, pull it together. Ultimately, It's about disarming us. They want to do that, and the more they want to do it, the more we need to make damn sure they can't do it.
Right. And there's so many camels with their nose under the tent right now that the tent almost doesn't even touch the ground anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They're all over the place.
Yeah. Thank goodness for GOA and these other organizations that are fighting for your rights. VCDL, GOA, the FPC, is it FTC? Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC, that have filed lawsuits all over the place. SAF has filed lawsuits all over the place. If you're not a member of all of them, at least be a member of one or more of them. So it's your membership dues when you join these organizations and when you donate to these organizations. That's how they fund these lawsuits. It takes hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to get cases to the Supreme Court. And we are winning, but we really do need the funds to be able to fight this fight. So, Joe Blow that gets charged with some ludicrous law can't afford to fight and take it up to higher and higher levels of court and eventually make it to the Supreme Court. It takes organizations like GOA and FPC and SAF that are getting donations on the national level, and then the state organizations like VCDL and Tennessee Firearms Association and all of these other state level organizations that also get into these lawsuits. And it takes all of us working together and pooling our resources to make things happen. We can make them happen. We are winning, but it takes money.
Yeah, it's not easy, but again, at least we have that option. Right now, we're kind of locked out of the General Assembly because the gun controllers aren't, which is right now, unfortunately, it's the entire Democrat membership of the General Assembly. All of them are basically against anything pro-gun at all, and they're after regular gun owners. But that the courts at least are an option now. It's expensive. Yeah, it takes time, but at least we can get our rights back to where they should be by going through courts right now. Now, once in a while, we may end up losing something. That can happen too. That's why you prefer to go to the General Assembly.
Right.
So we're just keep fighting any way, whatever avenue we have, we're trying to take advantage of.
Right. And it's going to be 2026 before we can make any headway in the General Assembly because yes, we have a favorable governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general, but in the House of Delegates and the Senate in the Virginia legislature, we have a majority that absolutely will not let any good Second Amendment rights legislation through. As a matter of fact, you saw that the record number of bills, 38 bills that Governor Youngkin had to veto from last session that made it out of both the House and the Senate. You know how hard it is to get a bill through both bodies like that and get it out to the governor? It's incredibly difficult. And it's that way on purpose. But they rammed them through deliberately, and then they're like, oh my goodness, the governor vetoed a record number of bills. And I said to Philip, well, if they hadn't passed a record number of really bad bills, he wouldn't have had to veto all those bills.
Yeah,
So,
they of course don't want to talk about that. And by the way, there is a very real possibility that our governor could become vice president. He's on the short list. And then, in which case, I believe it's the lieutenant governor that would then fill that position, which in that case, we should be safe again. In other words, that would not be catastrophic if we lost the governor to that, because the lieutenant governor is very pro-gun.
So till the end of his term, but then would that keep her from running for election in
I don't think so. I think if you're filling in, if you've been kind of bumped up the ladder because of something like this, that doesn't count against you having for being elected for a full term. I think so. I think she could run.
Yeah. So keep in mind, folks, there's no state level elections this year, but next year in 2025, the whole House of Delegates is up for re-election. The governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general are all up for election. Now, in Virginia, the governor can't run for re-election. He can only serve one consecutive term, he or she. They can run again after taking a term off, but they can't run for 2 consecutive terms of office. So there's a number of people.
Yeah, it's possible. Winston Sears, for example, could run, and there's others that could run for governor.
Right. And it's possible, too, that we'll have a special election in my district for Senate if John McGuire ends up winning the congressional race. Then we'll have to elect somebody to take his place in the Virginia Senate. So, pay attention to these things and pay attention to your local governments, because that's where you really, really have a lot of influence. Local governments now can pass a certain amount of gun control. We're working to get that repealed and have full statewide preemption back in place like we had a couple of years ago. But in the meantime, we have to keep an eye on our school boards. School boards can now ban guns in school board buildings, even though no classes are taught there, and it's very rare that students are there. The local governments can ban guns in parks at permitted events, and we're fighting lawsuits against that. But in the meantime, they're still allowed to do that right now. They can ban guns in local government buildings, so libraries. So keep an eye on what your local governments are doing. And if you see them starting to pass something like this, drop VCDL a line and we'll get people out to the city council meetings or the board of supervisors meetings and let them know that we're not going to stand for it.
Yeah, right now we've got 18 localities that have done that kind of thing. But it's like 5% but another one can do it. Your locality could end up being the 19th, and we don't want that to happen. So yeah, if you see anything, let us know. Don't be surprised if you hear that VCDL has got some more lawsuits going statewide. The board is looking at some stuff, so there'll be announcements on that should it happen. we're going to be making an announcement this week. Pat, you might talk about the VCDF just briefly.
Yes,
That announcement
absolutely.
will be coming out.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and talk. We can talk a little bit about that. I'm going to step away from 1 second. I'll be able to talk and listen. I'm going to step out of the camera for a
Okay.
minute.
Yeah. So the VCDL has created a 501c3 charitable organization. And so a lot of you have asked, well, can I write off donations to VCDL on my income tax as a charitable donation? VCDL is a 501c4. We're a nonprofit, but we're not a charity. So we heard the requests, and we also know that there are plenty of things like Facebook. You can donate to certain charities, and there's organizations where people work and they can donate to charities from their paycheck, and their employers will match the funds. But again, it has to be a C3 organization, a charity. So VCDL created the Virginia Citizens Defense Foundation, VCDF, and that is a 501c3. You can write it off as a charitable contribution on your personal income tax, and I will put the link to the VCDF in the chat. And it is vcdl.org/VCDF. So, and I'm working on getting it set up so that, when you have a birthday on Facebook, you can say, I want to raise funds for my favorite charity. So I'm working this week on getting that set up and getting some other things set up so that businesses that have the matching funds and things can, you can suggest that to your employers. So we're excited about that. And again, that will help fund these lawsuits and a certain amount of education of people, like what Jill is doing through the
Exactly.
Academy.
Yeah. Yeah. So being able to write it off on taxes will help a lot for people, and will, give us more funds to do the things protecting us through the lawsuits, as well as, again, education, which we have to counter a whole lot of indoctrination that's going on in the schools.
Yeah. Sadly, we don't have people like Bloomberg or Soros that fund us. So we just rely on membership dues and contributions, and things like the challenge coin that we have to
Yeah.
celebrate the vetoes.
Yeah, we
So
don't have palatial offices. Our offices are all in our homes, so there's no
yeah,
cost to VCDL for office space at all. So we
right.
try to be frugal with our money, but we got to spend it. There's things you got to do. So we
Yeah,
see that the VCDF is something that I wish we'd have had a while back. But man, let me tell you, to get one of those C3s is a real royal pain. And it's
oh
taken
yeah,
a long time and a ton of effort to finally get to the finish line on that.
we've been working on this for 3 years now, and
Yeah, it's not
it's
easy.
no, but it's worthwhile.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
we thought it was a great idea. You guys suggested it to us. We listened. We moved on it, and now it is a thing. So absolutely, you can make contributions there. I put the link to the page in the chats for both Facebook and YouTube, and I put the link for the challenge coin, the veto challenge coin, in the chat. So there are still veto coins left. They've been updated from the original 32 bills that were vetoed to now say 38 bills. So, but there's still only 320 of them total. So when the 320 are gone, they are gone. You won't be able to get them ever again. Just like the switchblades, when they were gone, they were gone. I've had people sending me messages saying, "Can I get a switchblade I missed out on?" I'm like, "Sorry, dude, you missed." So
Yeah.
you snooze, you lose. Sometimes there'll be other things
Yeah. There will be
to
other things coming
celebrate
along.
other wins, because we will keep winning. And, we just won't ever give up. Evil never gives up. There will
No,
always be
it
evil in the
doesn't
world, and
sleep.
we will always be vigilant, fighting against it.
We know that we know why they want our guns, and we're going to make sure that they're not going to get them. But we know why. It's not for crime. We know that. It's clearly not for crime. That was so demonstrated this year when the gun control groups, all of them, spoke out, not wanting to do extended time for bad guys. We know that if we took all the bad guys and locked them away, we wouldn't have much crime.
Right.
But they didn't want to do that, and that spoke volumes as to what they really want to do. And they don't want to admit what they want to do, but it's there. You cannot miss the message for them not wanting to punish criminals.
Something I found very interesting with this Trump assassination attempt. I went through all the articles to see the world leaders who were standing in support. I just found that interesting. I found that pretty much every world leader stood in support of Trump healing and getting past this, and condemning the attempt, and just political violence. Cuba was the only country the world leaders spoke out and said that it was because of our guns
Of
here and
course.
the
Oh,
weapons
don't
here
you
in
love
America.
that? Cuba. Yeah.
And Cuba was the
Yeah.
only one. I have to
If
I
you
have it
talk to a Cuban that came in during the time that they got taken over,
Libre.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they promised
So
everybody, we'll take care of you. They took their guns and then they enslaved them.
the world leader of Cuba, and you know that type of government, what that government is, but I have noticed that pretty much everyone on the left that has been calling for to ban AR-15s or gun control since this situation has happened, they are mimicking the exact words of the Cuban leader, and I found that interesting. I was like, oh, okay, so y'all really are commies. You're just
Oh no, they
you pretty
are.
much spelled it
They
out.
are.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, match.
Yeah.
I mean, we know they are, but I mean, they just kind of like put it out there even more so now. So it's just
Yeah, they've opened up. If you think about it, a lot of things that were hidden and they didn't want to talk about. So now they're kind of open about some of it. They've gotten either cocksure
absolutely.
that they're going to get what they want, or they've gotten desperate. I'm not exactly sure which it is, but they're not hiding it anymore.
Right.
And
This
if
whole
you're
But
not
plan.
watching,
I want to ask people, everybody watching, and tell all your friends and things, please, 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 don't call the assassin a shooter or a gunman or anything like that, because that demonizes the tool that was used. He was an assassin. He was a murderer. He was an evil person. Anything like that focuses on the act and the intent and the evil in the person themselves, but not on the tool. So the media uses terms like shooter and gunman to prejudice people against gun owners that are normal good people. So
Bloomberg held a
don't use.
conference. Bloomberg held a conference for the press a few years ago. I forget, 4 years ago or something. Explained to them how you cover these kind of things, any kind of violence of this nature. So it's not an accident that they're
No.
picking those terms. Bloomberg said, yes, you need to use these to villainize, to go after, to make gun ownership look like something evil. And indeed,
Absolutely.
that's what they've done. If you look at talking points, they all seem to speak in unison. There are certain things that are out there and it's not accidental that they're all suddenly using a term over and over and over at the same time. That's all part of the game.
Yeah. The pen is mightier than the sword, and that rings true all over the place. Whoever controls the narrative influences public opinion. So
Absolutely.
let's work really, really hard and be very aware of what we say and how we say it, and take back control of that narrative.
Yeah, don't let them get away with it. There is
Yeah.
no reason to let them get away with it.
So Tom Jefferson is asking where to get postcards for Governor Youngkin, and then we're going to have to sign off because it's 9:30
Yeah,
already.
this has gotten to be kind of long. That one, Bruce Jackson can get those out to you. Bruce at VCDL.org. Bruce can arrange to get you some cards, especially if you plan on distributing them, like at a church or at a gun show, at a gun store. If you own a gun store, if you got some friends that get a gun store, get permission to put them on the counter. And let's keep thanking him. And if he becomes vice president, it's important that I'm hoping that he will again be much a part of the conversation on guns with the president if Trump ends up winning. That will be important to have somebody there constantly making sure that we don't drift down that path again of what
That we
happened
don't
with
end up with
bump
another bump
stocks
stock ban. Yes.
red flag. If
Right.
anything, I would make the point to Trump that if red flag had been applied to his situation, they would have thrown him in jail and kept him there until they got around to seeing if he was actually guilty of anything. And I think
Right.
that would get through to Trump to say, oh, yeah, well, that's what red flag is to gun owners. If you're guilty until, we have a chance to get around to letting you present your side of the case, which might take weeks.
Yep. So, Jill, do you have anything else to add before we sign off here? You are muted.
We're not saying you're a mutant, but we're saying you're muted, Jill.
I wish everyone a good one till the next time. Stay safe.
Perfect.
Okay.
I will echo that sentiment, and thank you all for tuning in. Please do all the social media things, the like, the subscribe, the share, suggest to your friends they can listen to this on the way to work in the morning, make a tedious drive more interesting. And thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate each and every one of you.
Yeah, we certainly enjoy communicating and watching, seeing what you're saying, and so forth. It's good seeing John Wilburn out there commenting.
Yep.
If you check the comments, there's some good information there as always, just from our members directly. You guys know a lot about certain things, and we saw some comments on hunting and everything else in there. So do check that out, and appreciate everybody that's a member that's in the fight with us and helping us win this and beat off these people that want to take away our rights.
Yep. And for those of you out in the Valley, we hope to see you in about 10 days in Fishersville. Watch the VA alert. It came out in the last VA alert, but I think there'll be a reminder in a future one as well.
Yeah, and the bigger the turnouts, the more likely we'll be back in that area again. There's plenty of interest out there.
Yep. So we're trying to have meetings all around the state. I think Jill's working on setting one up down Southwest Virginia-ish way. And so stay tuned. You guys have a lovely evening and stay well, stay safe. We'll see you in the next one.